Next slide, please, if you would, guys. Here's a copy of the agenda for today. We're going to review the quarterly minutes. As noted, you've got two different copies there. I'll give you a financial report. We have a transition update for you. Pastor Dan will come up and give us a pastoral update, and then we'll open up the floor to any questions, comments, concerns, that kind of thing. We'll take a look at the upcoming church calendar, and then we'll send you on your way. All right, so let's get started. Have you had enough time to look at both sets of minutes? Again, what you've got there is you've got the third quarter business meeting minutes from October 23rd, and then you have the special business meeting minutes from December 4th. So I will give you another minute or two to take a look. If you see anything that should be changed, typos, dates, times, syntax, there should be a semicolon, not a bracket. Anything like that, shout it out. Yes, ma'am. Say that again.
It says there's a worship service on January 1st.
Oh, yeah. Oh, good point. And we didn't have one.
At the time of the meeting.
Right. Right. Good point. It was noted that in the calendar it says there would be a worship service January 1st. That obviously is not accurate now in hindsight, but at the time of the minutes it was accurate. Good catch. Page 1 of the October 23rd minutes. Say it again. Under Planning Lifepoint's Future. Second line. COVID has caused. We need a D. Is that what it is? Thank you. Noted. Noted. Mike Holmes, noted author, theologian, and you corrected a typo for him. Wow. I'm all tingly again for some reason. Yeah, we're friends. We're all friends. Any other changes you would make? Next slide, if you would, please, guys. If not, other than that one amendment and that one note, though we're approving two sets of minutes, we only need one motion to approve both, one vote. So I'll look for a motion to approve the minutes as amended. And a second. Thank you. And now we will vote. All in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Thank you to our Secretary, Mike Holmes. Next slide, please. I have a financial report for you. Let's go right into the next slide. We'll start with year end. So this is a different annual meeting, right? We're in transition. This is not going to look like what all the other annual meetings have looked like, largely updates for you. So let's start with year end giving. Just so you know, we ended the year of giving with $487,644. You can see our expenses there were $537,397. So we did end with a deficit of just under $50,000. We had a deficit of $49,753. All missions commitments were met. All of our missionaries were paid in full. And so you ask yourself, how can we have done this? Well, again, the way we do this is we had money in the bank, which we've been spending, and we also have that Wesleyan fund, and we'll look at that in detail in a second. So all bills have been paid, even though it cost us almost $50,000 more to run the church for the year than we took in. Next slide, please. Here's our current financial position. So right now on deposit, we have a checking and a savings account, and between the two of them, we have somebody say something? No? We have $55,700 on deposit. That's what we have in the bank. And then we also have, you can see there, $63,200 in Wesleyan loan funds. So just to refresh your memory, this is an equity loan that we have on the church. Now, we initially took it out and we used it for repairs. So we've got all new windows, for example, all right? That came out of that fund. The 63.2 is the remaining balance we have we can draw on. So we'd rather not go further into debt, But if needed, if we needed to do so to keep the lights on, et cetera, we have the ability to do so. Does that make sense? 55.7 in the bank, 63.2 additional debt we can draw on. Yes, yes, this is current finance. So the question was, is that after taking into account the previous slide, the deficit? So yes, you're correct. Yep. Next slide, please. So normally at an annual meeting, I would present to you a budget, or whoever was running the meeting would present to you a budget. We're in different times now. One of the things you voted to approve was to allow the board to take the steps needed to continue running the church as long as we are Lifepoint. So we have created a budget, all right? And this is the budget that we, the board, have approved, and I'm just wanting to share it with you. So we've done the math, and our budget going forward for 2023 is we've approved a budget totaling $66,000. These are monies that we estimate would allow us to continue operating through April. And you can see if you do the math there, it breaks down to about $16,500 a month. So what does that go to? Well, we have one paid staff member. Steve Copeland is our facilities manager. I just realized earlier, I don't know Steve's title. So I came up with facilities manager. So it's possible I did what corporate America does. They say, we can't give you more money, but we can give you a new title. So congratulations on that. So we only have the one paid staff member. His salary is part of that $16,500, and I'll share with you, however, that the vast majority of it are just costs of running our facility. Okay, servicing our debt, we've got that loan we're paying back a chunk on every month, and lights and heat and snowplow and all that stuff. So that's the budget that we, the board, have approved, again, with the expectation of continuing through April. Questions about that? Yes, ma'am. Great question. Are there stipulations on what we can use the Wesleyan Fund for? So Eaglebrook is aware of this debt that we have. The notation of the debt and the presence of the debt was part of the agreement we've entered into them. And their understanding and agreement is that if we need to spend all that money to stay open up until the time that the purchase is completed, they realize we may need to do that. Now, our response to that is we want to be good stewards of our funds and of our debt, and that we will not certainly spend willy-nilly. So I'll share with you, for over 20 years, I've been throwing out regularly the idea of a Board of Stewards Disney cruise trip. Right? We're not doing that. We're not doing that. So yes, they're aware of it. They're aware of the fact we may need to dip into it to continue operations, but we're going to do our best not to. So that's why I share with you from a giving standpoint. Other questions? Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. I have a transition update for you. So there's a lot going on around here. I'm sorry. No, wait. What do I have? Missions. Let's talk about missions again real quick. I noted that. Do you have a missions caregivers purse slide, guys? Yeah, you do. Why don't I? That's weird. Good talk. Missions and caregivers purse. As I mentioned, all mission commitments for 2022 were met. Thank you for that. We've tried to publicize this, but keep in mind that any giving that comes in is going to go to the general fund going forward. So missions, from a missions standpoint, we encourage you and all of us to give directly to missionaries and missions organizations. We've tried to promote this, but you can't promote things too much, so there's this pink handout. If you don't have a copy of this, grab one, please, or at the Welcome Center there. This gives you a good breakdown of all of our missionaries that Lifepoint has supported over the years and ways that you can continue to support them as a whole or as individuals going forward. Okay? The one caveat to that, actually two caveats, I noted that on Wednesday nights, if you come for a meal and you want to give a donation, those monies will go directly to offset the cost of the meal. The other one is Caregivers Purse. We are continuing to accept donations for Caregivers Purse. What we're doing with that is we're going to use the Caregivers Purse funds as, for lack of a better term, severance funds for our employees. So if you want to give to Caregivers Purse and you would specifically like your gift to go to a specific employee, currently it's been Ben and Matthew, note that on your check, okay? If you want to give to the Caregivers Purse and you don't want to designate a specific employee, that's fine. The Board of Stewards will work at the end to parse that out or disperse that. Make sense there? Yes, ma'am. So correct me if so the question was the monies that come in for missions now we're giving to missionaries. Correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think we're accepting money for missions. Am I mistaken? I am mistaken? Tell me more. Are we still accepting monies for missions? We are. I'm sorry, I didn't realize. When will that cease? Do we have a date? Okay. So my apologies, I was mistaken. We are still accepting monies for missions. So if you make a donation for missions, our best people will make sure that that gets distributed appropriately. And when the time comes and when we no longer are accepting those, we'll let you know. Is that right? All right. I make mistakes. Come on. We all do. All right. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. Next slide, transition update. So let's talk about what's going on here. First of all, there's a lot of things in the works. When you have an entity, whether it be a nonprofit or a church or a business, there's all kinds of paperwork that has to be filed. So we've begun that process. We have signed the purchase agreement with Eaglebrook. The title work is being done and everything related to a real estate sale is in the works. In addition, we had to publish a notification to our creditors. All right, in case there's some debt out there we're not aware of, we have to make a public notice of that for a time. There are papers that get filed with the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota. All of those things are in the works. So all of those papers have been generated and filed appropriately, and that motion is happening. We also have created 2 transition teams. So we've got a transition team, which is a group of 5 people. Brad Johnson's going to come and talk about that. He'll tell you who's on that team. And then, so come on up, Brad. And then we have an archive team also, totally different. So transition team you're going to hear is all about physical stuff. Archive team is about, we've been around 150 years. We got all kinds of documents. So we have an archive team that is specifically addressing those, and they'll tell you about that in a minute. But here's Brad.
A side note before I begin. The Boy Scouts have had meetings with a church in Roseville. We've had 2 meetings. I'm going to call it promising at this point. Yes. I have been kind of the lead building tour guy. I think I've taken about, I haven't kept count, but I think I've taken about 30 people through the building. I am learning all sorts of things. I know more about church security now than I've ever known before, and boy, have we been lax. There are all sorts of things coming security-wise. Yes. The final form of what this is going to look like has not yet been determined. They don't have drawings, they don't have estimates, they have a lot of ideas. It's not my job right now to share them because they're not finalized. But basically, the building's that's going to be the youth end. This is going to be the worship center. What else is coming? It's really interesting to take various ones of them around because some people have some ideas and other people have others, and they have not settled on what's going where yet. Things that are coming up. This coming Tuesday is probably the biggest tour so far because it's what I'm calling the Stuff Tour. On Tuesday, they are going to walk the building and tell us what they would like to keep and what they wouldn't. My guess is, if any of you know anyone who would like to buy a grand piano, we're going to be selling one quite soon. And as you can see from the previous screens, we're not going to give this baby away. We need the money. So keep that in mind. I don't know why somebody calling me offering for the grand piano. They're kind of pushing it. But anyway, probably be taking bids on that beginning Wednesday.
Do I check that? You can, certainly.
Nah, I won't check that. So, also coming on Tuesday, there are insurance carriers coming on Tuesday, and an estimator to work with their insurance people. Anybody have any questions about that sort of thing? Yes?
After the stuff tour, and they decide what they want to keep and what they don't want to keep, with what they don't want to keep, what will happen with that stuff?
I expect that the tables of free stuff in the back there is going to expand exponentially. The Eagle Brook Association, which is their group that has relationships with all sorts of other churches, is going to be helping us with getting rid of some things. Interesting thing is, it was through them that those chairs arrived, and so those chairs are going to probably be moving on to someone else. We're going to try to move things to places, to other churches first. That's our top priority, churches and other gospel organizations are going to get the first crack at the stuff. Yes? They haven't told us yet about the organ. At First Baptist in Minneapolis, which is the group that is they're working at now, they have kept the organ. If you look at the Eagle Brook Unplugged service, which is online, they did that one down at First Baptist in Minneapolis, which is going to become campus number 12. We're going to be campus number 13. And they did a service there on New Year's Day, and they used the organ. I imagine we're going to find out about the organ on Tuesday.
Would you like to buy an organ?
As a kid, climbing up the ladder and playing in the organ loft was something that I did on a few times. Others have been up there. Steve recently added a lock so that discouraging entry up there. I've been up there twice this past week. I hadn't been up there in 15 years probably, but I've been up there twice this past week. One of the guys wanted to tour the tunnel, and I didn't know where the day nursery people had kept those little scooter deals that we used to use to slide through the tunnel, and so I think they're going to bring their own back when they want to go through the tunnel next time. Trying to do this with an open hand has been difficult for me. The Sheehy Construction is their primary contractor, and they have taken the scans of the drawings and reprinted them. And growing up, my father kept a roll of the drawings in our house. And the drawings that they have scanned are the ones that have my dad's notes on it. And so that whacked me this past week. One of the guys that I've taken around 3 or 4 times and he's had different teams come with, he doesn't like the teams to see the historical room because they go in there and they'll stay for half an hour because they find that stuff just so fascinating because they don't do that sort of thing. And so I'm showing pictures on the wall, and I tell the people when we go in there that if I look on the wall, I can show you where my ears come from. Because if you look at my grandfather and my great-grandfather's picture in there, I've got Johnson ears. And that's something that doesn't happen in other places. Yes?
I just wanted to ask one other thing. Being one who has enjoyed the hymns and everything, it's like to have the hymns. I see that the hymnals still say Trinity Baptist on it. Would one of those be available for our parishioners would be able to have?
At some point in time, I have proposed to the board that we take a hymnal Sunday where we're going to put a board member at every door, and if you don't take a hymnal with you, you can't leave. As part of our getting rid of things tour. That stuff has not been determined yet, and so do not willy-nilly take things away at this point. That might be coming. That might be coming. But as of now, the stuff that's on the tables, fine. The computer from Parnell's office, no. The monitors in the Sunday school rooms, no.
Where do I return the desk?
Yes, probably. Yeah.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Okay.
Thank you, Brad. So our transition team is Brad, Lori White, Pastor Dan, Randy Jessup, and Molly Holmes. All right, so that's the 5 folks that are and will be working behind the scenes to help facilitate this, and we'll certainly keep you in the loop. All right, so when the time comes when you can take a pew, and I'm not joking, I got people calling me, can I have a pew? We'll let you know. Maybe. We have the second team. Parnell, come on up if you would, please. We have an archive team. Brad made reference to it in the historical room and in our safe. We have 150 years of history. And that's important, right? We're not going to just recycle that. So we put together our best team for this. It's Parnell, Tracy, and Linda Dalby. And Parnell will give you an update about what's happening regarding archiving documents. Hi, Parnell.
Hello.
New sweater, super cute. Oh, no.
Nice shirt, yeah. Okay, the transition team for the archives has met twice this last week. We started looking through all of the documents in the historical room, and if you've gone in there and there's like 6 cabinets on the one end, they were packed full of documents and books, everything going back. A bunch of the books were in Swedish, so we're not sure what they say, but we think they're probably important. We've pulled out all of those documents, we've sorted them. A few of those things may be going to the Minnesota Historical Society, since we were one of the first Baptist churches in St. Paul. We expect, though, that a majority of the things will be going to the History Center at Bethel. The archivist, Rebecca Bain, I think her name is that right, Tracy? Was here on Thursday and met with us and looked through, the things that we had sorted for old records, old pictures. We have a bunch of pictures from when this building was being built. They are interested in almost all of that, so soon we're going to be packing up those things and shipping them off to Bethel for them to keep. Chances are they don't have room for the old pulpit that's in there or our communion table. Some of those bigger items, they just don't have the room to store them. So we'll be trying to figure out what we can do to dispose of them at some point. Our next step is to go through the vault. And if you think there is a lot of documents in the historical room, the vault is packed with membership records and stuff going back to 1873, and most of it, like I said, is in Swedish. So we have talked with our CPA as far as keeping financial records. We're required to keep things for 6 years. So we will be looking at everything that we can shred and hopefully taking a lot of things over to Randy Jessup's place to shred some of those records for us. So we're underway, and we have spent, 6 hours, 8 hours already just looking through the historical room. It's very interesting to see how the old pictures, and it's fun to see pictures of people that we know when they were really young. So we've had a good time doing that. So it's a privilege really to work on this, and hopefully we'll get the rest of the documents looked through and categorized. We need to get them off-site, sent over to Bethel soon, so that when transition takes place, none of those records can be here anymore. So we'll be in the process of packing things up soon. So, any questions? Oops. Okay, there you go.
Thank you, Parnell. Tracy, come on up real quick. Remember 15 years ago when this Karen ministry started? Randomly, 3 Karen boys showed up. And out of that became, at one point, we were the largest Karen church in the world. How random, right? And it's in our time. Except, listen to this.
I've had the privilege of going through some of the documents in the historical room, and we've had a couple of boxes from the Dorcas Society, which is kind of like the Women's Missions Society that goes back into the 1800s. One of the books that I opened up had a letter in it from Thora Thompson between 1920s and 1930s. And she was a teacher at a school in Burma. And she was telling our church about how the Dorcas Society's monies are being used at this school in Burma. It's a women's Christian school, and some of the women, girls, students, became Christians and chose to be in the Lord's service back in the 1920s to 40s. And our church was part of making that school thrive and those women to know Jesus. And they were Karen people. It was for the Karen that this school was put together. So our ministry is a long history.
I think it's Philippians, because of your partnership in the gospel from the first day until now, being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. That's amazing to me. In the 1920s, it was happening. For some reason, in my head, I know the name Adoniram Judson. He was a missionary that went there decades ago, right? God has been at work. And sometimes it's easy for us to see God at work like this, right? But man, God's been at work a long time. And just as he has carried that ministry on, he's going to carry this ministry on and be faithful to complete it. Transition team, as I mentioned, is Parnell, Linda Dalby, and Tracy. Any other questions about what's occurring there? Just wanted to stress primarily that we realize we have a treasure trove of information, and we want to make sure it's properly handled and addressed. Pastor Dan, come on up. Pastoral update.
Thank you. I probably don't need to say a lot. I preached, the sermon was about things that were on my heart today, and hopefully that was helpful and challenging and just a way to think about how to process all of this. So that was most of what I would have to say to you. Just other things, I'm trying to make sure that groups around here are taken care of, or Steve does that really, and Parnell. Give a hand to Steve and Parnell. It's unbelievable. And to Ross and the board, keep clapping. To Jane and all the people that's helping out with worship. Isn't this amazing? This volunteer church thing is just continuing on, and thank you for how you're supporting it financially as well. I don't want to say this to cause a problem, but I want to say it just because part of my thing has been all along is how do we take care of Matthew and Ben and our staff. And we thought that he was going to get unemployment. And I won't say this anymore after this, but that didn't happen. And I know some of you decided that, hey, we're doing a pretty good job based on that decision that we thought was going to happen, not happening. So we're keeping it open to still give money, but don't use the money that goes into the regular, if you would, if you could. We need that to keep going. But money over and above, we need about $16,500. But money over and above that, which may be for some of us now because we don't have the large budget. So pray about it. If there's ways that you could help out, it'd be really fun if we could get close to what 6 months would have been for unemployment pay, or $20,000, something like that. I think we've had a good start on that already. There's been a good bunch come in for Ben and for Matthew. Thank you for that. But just I won't say too much more about that, but I just wanted to bring that up because some of you have said thank you that we're taking care of them because of the unemployment. That didn't happen, unfortunately. There was some snags we found in that. We actually didn't have unemployment insurance. So I talked to Ben yesterday. He's doing well, trying to do some consulting work. Actually, we got him working, doing some stuff for us with Anchored, trying to get some grants. He's good at that kind of work, and so he's working out around trying to find work among the grant world. He's preaching today someplace, so he's doing a fill-in today. So keep the family in prayer. Matthew also is really like to have a different job than Amazon and some of the things he's been doing. So be in prayer that God might open up a door for Matthew as well. And any monies that still come in for him would be appreciated as well. As far as the BSF and some of those groups, they're still looking. I know that the Thai Church is going to be here on the 19th of February to share where they're going next, so they have a place to go. I think the Korean Church also has a place to go. I don't know if they have made their final sign the dotted line yet, but they have a place I believe, to go. The Spanish Church, I've not heard yet if they have a place yet. BSF has been meeting, and I haven't heard back yet. They were going to meet with the pastor and board last week. I haven't heard if it went through. So pray for them, because that's a big one. So things are happening that way. Anchored Ministries, we're continuing to be busy, as well as many other ministries in this building, and the kitchen crew. Give a hand to the kitchen crew. They're just fantastic. Feeding these kids. These kids wouldn't come in without the food, so, and then they get a chance to say, is it Krishna? Is it Hare Krishna? Is it Jesus? Is it whatever? I mean, there's some fantastic conversations going on, so thank you for your prayers on how that ministry will continue. Clothes closets, backpacks. People are already asking about it. Edgerton's asking about it. We're hoping that we can continue all that stuff somehow through those of us already involved, through Anchored if we need to, others that might be thinking about how we could make it happen. So if you're interested in any of those kind of ministry teams, there's plenty of ministry opportunities. In addition to, we want to assimilate youth into the Eaglebrook program and just see how that will go as well. We're just excited about that. So we'll probably be taking some of them, when the things shut down here, to go on field trips to go to some of those programs at Eaglebrook. Any questions for me? Anybody has? Yeah, go ahead, Dina. Yes, with Edgerton. Yes. The social worker there used to be on staff with me. I was her boss with Family Innovations, and so we go back a long ways. So we keep in touch. We have several social workers that I know personally that I've used to work with that are with the Korean. So they are asking us, how can we keep that going? Maybe we can even have talk to Eaglebrook about putting a tent out in the parking lot, maybe to have that backpack drive meal, because they want us to have that. They said, you guys can't quit that. so there's some exciting conversations going on with Edgerton. One of the Eaglebrook conversations is that they also give to they give some monies to schools. And they have some things that they receive money sometimes that has to, well, I won't get into that. I shouldn't say certain things maybe, but there's some money that they get given to them that must be given to a non-church or non-faith group because of who gave it. So, and yet they want to give it to Eagle Brook. So some of that gets funneled into these schools. And so they're helping schools quite a bit. And so we're hoping to get Edgerton into that. So I'm hoping that we'll have a conversation with Eagle Brook about that, Jeff. So. Do we have our reading group? I'm not aware that that's still going on. Yeah. You want to speak to that?
Just real quickly, to go back a little bit in the history too, our church, do you remember when Sarah Bush died, the little girl? So her parents wanted to do something at Edgerton, and we started that reading with kids who don't speak English well to help them. And then from that, they asked us when we were Trinity to teach the parents English. So we had English lessons here for the parents. People from our church helped teach it. And then they started bringing kids with them and helping, because it was hard for us to teach English when they knew none and we knew no Korean. So some of their kids came to help. And then we sent some of those kids to Trout. And then some of those kids met Micah Varberg at Trout, and he was their leader. And then they wanted to come to church where he was. And that's where those 3 random boys came from.
Thanks for that update. That's fun. It's kind of fun that we can share in this kind of way today.
Thank you. Next slide, please. Other questions? Anything you want to talk about? Yes, ma'am. We do. That's on my next slide. 150th. Yep. Absolutely. Let's talk about stuff again real quick. So when the point comes when Eagle Brook says we need this, we don't need this, several priorities. Well, number one is if there's something here that is of special significance to you, you'll be given the opportunity to have it. If 2 of you want it, we will do a best 2 out of 3 thumb wrestle or something like that, to be determined. Big things like chairs and tables. We have the opportunity to be a blessing. As Brad noted, these came to us from another church through Eagle Brook. So if they say, we don't need these chairs, or think of all the chairs in the building. We got hundreds of chairs, right? There's going to be places that will benefit from having chairs and that sort of thing. So there is a process. This is not dump off a giant dumpster and fill it up. The process is to try to be a blessing and to pass things on as much as possible. As Brad referred to, please don't start taking stuff. It's tempting. I know. Don't. Well, as soon as we know what is available for folks to have, we'll let you know. Questions? Okay, next slide, please. Church calendar. When we first started this process, the expectation or the guesstimate was that the sale would occur sometime in March. We have a new timeline now because of a variety of things, including time it's taking for them to remodel First Baptist in Minneapolis, etc. The expectation is the sale will take some time in April. So that means we're going to have Easter services here. Hooray. Hooray. This side of the church likes Easter. This side, more Christmas people. That's okay. And 150th anniversary. Yes, absolutely. We are going to celebrate that. Eagle Brook had said to us, boy, that's important, and we're going to make sure there's a celebration of some sort. And we said, we can probably do that on our own. We'll do that on our own. So we have a team. Mary Carlson and others are part of a team that are working to make that happen and put that together. Is the expectation sometime in April for that also? April 16th. All right, put that on your calendar, April 16th. More to come. If you want to help with that, talk to Mary. Can we talk to Mary? Raise your hand, Mary. Stand up, Mary. Wave at everybody. If you'd like to help with the 150th anniversary, I'm sure they would accept more help. Talk to Mary Carlson. Other questions, comments, or concerns? Yes, sir. Oh, Koren dinner, that's right. Do we have a date? That's right, the Koren Church wants to provide us a dinner.
Thanks, yes, February 18th, and I haven't gotten any more information yet, so I got to get more details from them. But February 18th, that's a Saturday, here in our social hall. They would like to have a meal with us, for us, all of that. So it'd be really great if we can get that on our calendars, and a lot of us show up for that. So I'll get more details and should have that next week. Thank you.
Thank you. Good question. Thanks for calling that out. And we will do our best to keep you updated. Other questions? Well, that's it. I appreciate your time. Thank you for being here. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. There's no secrets in this process. If you want to know what's going on and you feel you're not being communicated with well, let me know, and I'll give you answers. Or actually, what I'll do is I'll give you Parnell's cell phone, and then, no. If you have questions or things that come up and you want to know more about, let us know. Certainly, we're happy to share information. I appreciate your time. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.